to jump straight into the next speaker, and we're actually going to change things around. We're going to actually have Phil up next. He is the owner of Hammock Universe. Phil, you can go to setup first if you want. And basically what that is he started as a dropshipping store. Anyone here familiar with dropshipping is, or? Okay. Who here actually owns a dropshipping store? Okay. So maybe about 5 or 6 of you. So that's what he started at, and he's basically used that same model where he's grown it, and now he is the actual manufacturer. It's actually his brand now. So it's a really, really exciting kind of journey where you can see what it's like getting started, without carrying your own inventory, without having to buy a bunch of products and warehouse it, and then getting to a point where you grow into what people call like a real business, where you actually have a brand, you actually have your name on the product, as well as you're the one importing and getting much better margins. So I am really excited about his talk, and hope you guys will be as well.
All right, thank you, Johnny. So my name is Philip. I run the e-commerce website hammockuniverse.com. I know some of you, but there are a lot of new faces here in Chiang Mai, so most of you I've never met. Today I'm going to talk to you about how we made the transition from a dropship website, which is what lots of you are doing now, into manufacturing and branding our own products. So first, a quick intro. Hammock Universe was actually founded way back in 2001. We launched our first website in 2002. In truth, Hammock Universe for a lot of years was just kind of a side hobby of mine. It was just a fun thing to do. Sales on the internet back in those days were kind of a novelty. It was a very new thing. So I had a full-time job. I worked for the government, had a regular 9-to-5 gig. And so just did this for fun. I think it took me 3 months or something to get my first sale, which I wasn't even expecting. I remember running into my parents' backyard, with my hands up. I couldn't believe I'd made money online. Internet sales were a really rare thing back then, so I was quite happy. So when I first launched the site, I had one physical product that one hammock that I imported from Mexico, but the rest was drop shipping. So over the years, it certainly took a while because it was just a hobby for a lot of those years, but Hammock Universe did start providing a full-time income for me. So yeah, we eventually moved into sourcing our own hammocks, and the first thing that we did was more of the traditional business model. We rented a 2,000-plus square foot warehouse in Ottawa, Canada, in a local business park, and we started shipping hammocks in containers from overseas and stored everything in that warehouse. So a couple of years down the line, we actually outgrew the warehouse space that we had, and I remember having to make one of these big life decisions on what we were going to do next. One of the options was to rent a bigger warehouse, which was a lot of extra overhead, and hire employees because we just couldn't handle doing the shipping ourselves anymore. I remember my business partner, who's a university graduate, spending from morning to evening in the warehouse packing and shipping products, morning to night, 7 days a week. So we were really at the stage where we had to hire some people, get a bigger warehouse. Just about at that time, I started looking into outsourcing warehousing, which was pretty much a new concept back then. But obviously we made a lifestyle decision. I've always had this dream that you're all living it now of sort of traveling the world with a location independent business and being able to do this from anywhere. So that's what we decided on. So today we have 50 plus SKUs. We have 3 web properties, HammockUniverse.com, which is our Canadian, for Canadian sales. We have HammockUniverseUSA.com, which is for the American market, and we have HammockUniverse.com, which is for the much smaller Quebec market in Canada. We have warehousing both in Canada and the United States. So our journey. The reason we did this initially, we were, like many of you, drop shipping, and these very resourceful Chinese manufacturers and suppliers. And I was getting, geez, it must have been 3 or 4 emails a week from these guys, who eventually started including price lists and product catalogs without my requesting anything. I had to do a double take when I first saw these prices for products that were very similar or exactly the same to the products that we were already selling. For example, something that we were selling for, $75, we were buying for maybe $35 or $40 from our supplier, and these Chinese manufacturers on these price lists were selling this product for $5. I absolutely couldn't believe it. So it was just a fraction of the price. So what did we do? For better or for worse, I was not surrounded by anybody that had ever done this before. I really didn't have much experience. We didn't really know what we were doing, to be honest. But we wrote back to some of these guys. We set up appointments, and we just got on the plane and went to China. We had a host pick us up at the Shanghai airport. Everything was pretty. I remember everything was pretty new. Everything was pretty strange from the second we landed. But that's how we got started, and we met. I think it was 3 or 4 different suppliers on that first trip. So we established the biggest thing in China is the Chinese way. We established personal relations. I'm sure it's different depending on where you are in the world, but the way it works in China is that a bond and a friendship is built before you actually get down to business. So person to person is very useful for that. Remember touring the production facilities. Here we are, Hammock Universe, placing a small order. And I remember production going on, thousands of boxes for Walmart, Bed Bath & Beyond, and all these other massive brands. And I remember thinking, what the hell am I doing here? They're going to laugh at me when I tell them how many I want to order. They didn't, though. So that's what we did. We branded, it all took off from there, placed some orders, and we branded every single product with the Hammock Universe logo. So the immediate benefits we got from it, obviously, first and foremost, is we're all in business to make money, and we started making a lot more money. Things became a lot more profitable very quickly. So another benefit we got, because our products are long-lasting, people use our products for 5, 6, 7 years. When we started branding them with the Hammock Universe name and logo and URL, we got some SEO, search engine optimization benefit out of that. As many of you know, Google do recognize branded searches. For example, if somebody searches on Google for the term Hammock Universe, Google associates a lot of importance to that. They say Hammock Universe must be an important, legitimate business. People are searching for Hammock Universe. So this was a side benefit that we got. We really gained quite a bit of traction in the search engines the second we started branding. It used to drive me nuts to do all this hard work to acquire these customers and have somebody else ship their products and their brand to the customers I worked so hard to obtain. It drove me nuts. And obviously one of the major benefits is the second you start branding your own, that no longer happens. So this is a big one. We really, with the supplier we used to have, and part of the weakness of our old business model was we had one major supplier, so that was one point of failure. I recognized fairly quickly that they had way too much control on our business. Too much can go wrong, and I certainly don't want to be relying on somebody else and give them power over my business. For example, quality control. They had one product one year that was a massively defective product. And so we had all these returns, and the supplier, was quite stingy about accepting these returns. So we had all these people that were pissed off at us. We're taking a flak, we're trying to offer good customer service, and the supplier, who doesn't have to deal with the customers directly, is giving us a hard time on returns. That was obviously a major issue. When we got control of our shipping, this was a big one. We started shipping a lot quicker. We started doing same-day shipping. So we got an order like at 11 a.m. We had, FedEx come around at 3 p.m. I think it was. The nice thing is, people online have been trained to expect shipping within like 7 to 10 days or something. Even when they order off Amazon, the shipping's a little bit slow. So we started blowing customers' expectations out of the water. Using FedEx, we'd get stuff there. Usually Ottawa, Toronto, or even Ottawa, Alberta was within 3 days. So what happened is people were just pleasantly surprised, started getting an enormous amount of positive reviews from surpassing their shipping expectations. That was a big one. So you never know what's going to happen to your supplier. They can, obviously, even the biggest suppliers, Maytag or whatever, can have major... Did we lose it?
You did.
Can you still hear me? All right, so we had... you never know what's going to happen. They could close up shop. Who knows? So I think oftentimes people don't talk enough about some of the things that can go wrong, some of the challenges, some of the things that are just going to kick your ass. We certainly had our fair share. The cost of inventory is a big one. Hello? Good. The cost of inventory is a big one. We had to come up with, I think it was $75,000 the first time we went to China. I didn't just have that in like a drawer in my bedroom or in my back pocket. So we had to we had to figure that out. The cost of inventory is a big one. So we went to the banks. We thought we'd get a bank loan. Turns out that the banks were not so keen on it. They pretty much kicked us out of their offices. So we had to get creative. In China, they usually have minimum order quantities, and we started by having to renegotiate a lot of those to fall under their minimum order quantities. Just so you guys know, those minimum order quantities, which you'll see on Alibaba and stuff, are just a number. Everything is negotiable. They're at the end of the line, in my experience, they're not going to refuse your money. So what we did, we got a little creative. We used these banks back in those days used to send us these personal checks that we could activate, like 0% interest rates, with a limit of like $20,000. And both myself and my business partner wrote ourselves a couple of those checks, which had to be paid back within 6 months or something. And we used that along with some cash flow that we had from the business for the initial inventory. You'll be dealing with, specifically, I can only speak of Asia because that's where I do business. It's a completely different way of thinking and a completely different culture. Whereas in North America, if I'm dealing with a Canadian company or an American company, if things go wrong, I've got some sort of legal recourse. I can even treat them a certain way. I can threaten to sue them. These are all things that happen in North America. In my experience, if you do this in China, you're making your situation worse. Screaming and yelling at them, which you're going to want to do a lot, all the time doesn't work. So saving face is a big one. They often know they've screwed up, and if you give them a way out, a way out of the situation, not putting it in their face, I've noticed is much more effective in dealing with the Chinese. Friends before business partners is a big one as well. It took me many trips to China to realize the first couple of trips we were all about inspecting products and making sure everything's all right, and walking through the factory and looking at their process. It's really not about that. It's about personal relations. So this year we met, for example, 3 or 4 new suppliers, and for one of them in particular, we said we don't even want to see the factory. We know the products are quality, and we're not going to reorganize the way they make the products. Anyways, they've got a standard that's been established over the years. We went out, had some beers, became friends, and the partnership is much more solid for it. Quality control. This is a really messy one. That's a whole new can of worms. So a couple of things I would suggest once you guys get to the point, you dropshippers get to the point where you're doing this, is most of the products that you're going to have made, actually pretty much all the products you're going to have made, there are most likely dozens of factories in China that can help you, not just one. They're not all created equal. By a large margin, some of them are much better in terms of quality standards than others. We had to learn that the hard way. I remember one year we had a hammock stand made. They had used a thinner, cheaper metal for this stand. I guess they were saving a few bucks. What was happening is some of our bigger clients were laying in these hammocks and these stands were breaking. We had, I think, $20,000 worth of inventory in this product, and it was all rendered useless overnight. So learned from that. We had only dealt with one factory back then. Now we have several factories that we know, and we've identified the factories that work with the bigger brands and do a better job of quality control. Ask them for lots of pictures. They're used to this. Don't assume if you're ordering a pink shirt, don't assume you're going to get a pink shirt. Yeah. It's the obvious stuff that you think is obvious, but it's not. Make sure everything, every minute detail is correct. Size, product size. I can't tell you the amount of times that we had something on order that was this dimension, but what was sent to us was a different dimension. Oftentimes really screwing us over. Ask for pictures. Ask for them with the tape measurement, proving that the product is the size that you ordered. No detail is too minor. Don't assume it's going to be correct. Inspection teams. So this can be quite useful. There's all these companies set up in Asia that will run inspections for you in the factories. The factory owners absolutely hate them. But it works. These guys go in, take pictures. You tell them, on your bulleted forms, everything that you want them to check. They're not going to be engineers about it, and they're not going to figure out what you need. You need to be very specific and tell them what you need. And they generally, as long as your specs are correct, they'll do a pretty good job. If you guys want any recommendations, I've used a few of them. Just see me after the presentation. I'll be happy to give you some names. Be simple. In transmitting instructions, in the Chinese culture, yes is the standard answer to everything. I was told by an American who was learning Chinese that no doesn't even exist in the Chinese language. No matter what you ask, how you ask it, they will say yes. So make sure your instructions are as simple as you can make them. Warehousing is a bit of a challenge, although it's, I think, less of a challenge these days. I think most of you dropshippers are on Shopify, which is great. Shopify has applications now that links you right into some of these warehouses. The biggest one that comes to the top of my head is Shipwire. You could get your goods stocked with Amazon as well. We use a local company out of Ottawa, independent warehouse called Ottawa Logistics. They do a fantastic job for us. So, in conclusion, hopefully a lot of you dropshippers get to that point where you're at 6 figures in sales and you decide to take more control of your business. For us, it's been a natural evolution to brand our own products, and it's been a huge net benefit. Don't imagine that you have to stop living the lifestyle that you're living now because you go this route. In fact, I never see my products anymore. I see pictures of my products, but I don't see my products. We have them shipped directly, manufacturer, warehouse, customer, returns are handled by the warehouse. You can continue living this wonderful lifestyle even if you're branding and sourcing your own. So that's it. Lots of setup work and means greater rewards. And as Nike would say, just do it. Cheers.
Big thank you to Phil. If you guys need a hammock back in the US or Canada, HammockUniverse.com and
HammockUniverseUSA.com if you're in the US.
We don't have that much time, but maybe 2 questions.
Why did you a website for different regions?
Great question. Shopify was set up in a way that they would only accept one currency based on your country. So we couldn't have a multi-currency website. And what was happening is because of the fluctuation of the US dollar versus the Canadian dollar, US dollar often becoming much stronger, it was affecting our bottom line. So we had to protect ourselves against that. The second reason was SEO. We wanted, you know, you go into Google Webmaster Tools and you'll tell them where your website is located. So we wanted a US specific website for the USA. We thought there'd be some SEO benefit there. Sorry, I didn't hear that. How do I handle returns? With the, you mean with the suppliers? That's a good question. What the Chinese will do is they'll roll it into the next order. They're always wanting that next order, so this is a way for them to say, well, we'll handle it next time. You're never going to get a credit from them or get your money back. It's just not going to happen. So we tabulate the returns, and so on the next order, we'll tell them, well, we had a 5% defect rate. Make sure we only bring that up after everything's been established, the price, the order's done, and then, oh, by the way, this was our defect rate, 5%. So let's take 5% off the order. They usually acquiesce. Cheers.